I am 400 feet underground, alone, on a solo permit that nobody else signed, and there are two sets of handprints in the mud in front of me. One set is mine, gloved, 5 fingers heading in. The other set is bare, the fingers are too long, and they lead deeper into a crawl I surveyed myself 2 years ago. A crawl that dead ends in solid rock about 40 feet from where I am lying. So I want you to understand the exact shape of my problem. I am flat on my stomach, in a passage the width of my own shoulders, and I am listening to something breathe at the far end of a tunnel that does not go anywhere. Slow, wet, patient, like it is waiting for me to come the rest of the way. My name is Wes Hagen. I'm 43 years old, and I have been caving for 22 of those years. That isn't a brag. I want you to know it, because everything I am about to tell you, I am telling you as a person who knows exactly how a cave is supposed to behave. Caves are the most honest places left on earth. The rock does not move. The map does not lie. Water runs downhill. If you are disciplined, and you are humble, and you do not panic, a cave will let you leave. I cave alone. Most serious cavers will tell you that's a sin, and they're right, and I do it anyway, and I do it carefully. I file a trip plan. I leave it on the kitchen table. My wife Dana holds the call out. The deal is simple, and it has never changed in 19 years of marriage. If I am not standing at the gate, at the entrance by 6 in the morning, she does not wait, she does not hope, she does not drive out to check. She calls the county, and she tells them to send cave rescue down the Sennett system after her idiot husband. Call out was 6 in the morning. Everything I am about to tell you happened in the 5 hours before it. Remember that number. 5 hours. The Sennett system runs under a ridge of grey karst country, and the only way in is a vertical entrance drop, 110 feet straight down a gated shaft on a rope I rigged myself that afternoon. You back over the lip, you trust your gear, and you descend into a cold that has never once seen the sun. Below the drop, the system opens into a trunk passage, and from there it threads back through galleries and crawls and 2 squeezes that have names, the way bad corners on a mountain road have names. The tightest one is called the birth canal. You'll understand why in a while. I went down at 1 in the morning. I like the dead hours. There is nobody on the surface to worry about, and the cave is exactly as empty as it always is. I touched the bottom of the drop. I called off rope, out of pure old habit, to nobody, and I started in toward the back of the system, flagging my route as I went the way I always do. Little squares of reflective tape folded over a rock at each junction, arrow pointing the way out. Breadcrumbs, so that a tired man at the end of a long trip never has to think about which black hole goes home. I want you to hold on to that detail too. The tape points the way out. The first wrong thing was small. I almost talked myself out of it. About 90 minutes in, at the junction we call the crossroads, I stopped to drink water and eat half a candy bar, and I counted my flags out of habit. There was one too many. There was a square of reflective tape folded over a rock down the left-hand passage, the passage toward the back of the system, the deep way, and its little arrow was pointing inward, deeper, away from the exit. I did not place that flag. I don't flag inward, no caver does. The arrow always points home. I stood there at the crossroads for a long time with my light on that flag, and I told myself the story you would tell yourself. Another caver, some other trip, months ago, flagged it wrong and never came back to fix it. The tape looked exactly like mine because tape is tape. It meant nothing. I was tired, and tired men count wrong. So I pulled the flag, because a wrong flag in a cave can kill the next person, and I put it in my pocket, and I went on toward the back of the system to do the survey work I'd come to do. I want to be honest with you about that moment. I had a clean, easy chance to turn around right there, and I called it nothing, and I went deeper. If you take one thing from me tonight, take that. The cave gives you an exit early, and it is always small, and it never looks like an exit. It looks like a reason to keep going. The second wrong thing was my pack. I reached the survey station at the back of the maze around 3, dropped my pack, and went into the side passage to take measurements. 20 minutes, maybe 30. When I came back and knelt to get my notebook, my backup light was gone. Now, the rule underground is the rule of 3. 3 independent sources of light, always. Because the dark down there is not like surface dark. It is total. It is the absence of the concept of light. Lose your light in a cave and you cannot find your own hand. And most people who die in caves do not die from the fall. They die from sitting down in the black and giving up. I had my helmet lamp. I had a hand torch in my chest pocket, and I had a backup light, a little waterproof one, that lives clipped inside the top of my pack on a yellow cord. It had lived there for 6 years. It was clipped there when I dropped the pack. The cord was still clipped. The light was gone off the end of it, like someone had unthreaded it in the dark, and taken it and clipped the empty cord back. Neat. The way you'd put something back so it wouldn't be missed too soon. I'm not too proud to tell you my hand started shaking. 2 lights left, 400 feet down. And the first cold thought that went through me was not who. It was the other one. It was, something down here wants me to have less light. If you have ever felt that specific fear, the one where the explanation your mind reaches for is so much worse than a stranger, then you already know why I am telling you this instead of sleeping. Do me a favor. If this is hitting the way I think it's hitting, subscribe, so the channel can keep finding you. I'll get back to it. Nah. I made the decision that I think saved my life for as long as it's been saved, which is, I left. Survey unfinished. I packed up and I started out, fast, toward the entrance drop, hand torch off to conserve it, helmet lamp on its lowest useful setting. And the route was wrong, not impossible, not movie wrong. Wrong the way a sentence is wrong when one word has been changed. At the crossroads, where I should have had a clean line back toward the trunk, there was new flagging tape I had not placed, sending the exit route down and to the right, into the deep crawls. My own flags, the ones I'd put in on the way down, arrows pointing home. 3 of them were gone, pulled, and the new tape, folded by a hand that knew exactly how I fold mine, pointed me down, away, deeper, with that same little confident arrow that says this way out. I did not follow it. I know my way out of the Sennett system in total darkness. I have practiced it lights off, because that is the drill that keeps you alive. I went the way I knew was home. That is when my light caught the handprints. They were in the mud at the mouth of a side crawl. The old survey crawl I had mapped myself 2 years before. The one that runs 40 feet back and dead ends in solid rock. 2 sets of prints. One was mine, gloved, 5 fingers, but old, half-dried, pressed into the mud back when I surveyed this crawl 2 years ago. I had not set foot in it tonight. The other set was bare, and fresh, and the fingers were too long. And both sets led the same way, inward, into the dead end, into the rock that does not go anywhere. I should have kept walking. I want that on the record. But there is a part of a man that has to know, and it is older and louder than the part that wants to live. And it put me flat on my stomach and sent me into that crawl on one cheek to look. 40 feet of belly crawl, my shoulders brushing both walls, my light 6 inches from the mud in front of my face, and from the dead end ahead of me, from the solid rock, from the place the cave simply stops. Something was breathing, slow, wet, with a little catch on the exhale, like air coming through a throat that had water in it. I want to be precise, because I have had a lot of hours down here to be precise. It was not my breathing. I held my own breath to be sure. I held it until my chest burned, and the breathing kept on, even and slow and unbothered, from a place 40 feet in where there is nothing but solid rock. It was a bigger sound than mine, slower than a frightened man's. So I came out of that crawl backwards, faster than is safe, because every animal instinct that has kept my species alive said do not crawl toward the wet breathing in the dead end in the dark. And I have learned to respect the parts of me that are older than my opinions. I wanted the rope. I wanted to be on it and out of that place more than I have ever wanted anything. But I did not trust the low crawls anymore. Not after that. So I took the long way to the trunk, a high route that gets you there from the far side, up and over instead of through. It floods, but it had been dry all season. I went up into it, and I crawled, and I got to the window where the high route looks down into the trunk, and I put my light down through it toward the bottom of the entrance drop, toward my rope. And there was a light down there already, far off, at the very edge of my beam, near the foot of the drop, a caver's light, steady, pointed up at me. For one whole second I was so relieved I almost cried. Another person down here, that simple, that human. I almost called out, and then the light went off, not turned away. Off, the way a light goes off when whatever is holding it does not want to be looked at anymore. And in the half instant before it went, in the spill of my own beam, I did not see a person standing at the foot of my rope. I saw something the right height for a person, pressed flat and wrong against the rock, with its head turned too far around to be looking up at me the way it was looking up at me. I'm going to be honest about the next part, because the whole reason I'm recording this so somebody knows the truth of it, and not a brave version. I lost some time, I don't know how much. I came back to myself, sitting in the high root, with my back against the cold rock, and my light off. I had turned my own light off. Some animal part of me had decided that being seen was the danger, and my watch said it was almost 5. Almost 5. I had lost the better part of an hour, sitting in the black, and 1 hour to call out, and the only way to the rope I knew of had a steady wet breathing in it, and the foot of the rope had that. Here is the thing I understood, sitting there, that I need you to understand. It was hurting me. Every wrong thing. The flag pointing in, the stolen light, the reflect route, the breathing planted in the one crawl I needed. All of it pushed the same direction, away from the rope, deeper, toward the back of the system, toward the tight country, toward the birth canal. It did not want to catch me in the open. It wanted me somewhere I could not turn around, and I realized I had one move left that it might not expect. The birth canal connects, on its far side, to an old dig, a passage some cavers opened years ago and abandoned, that surfaces in a sinkhole half a mile from the gate. A bad way out. A wet, awful, barely passable way out, but a way out that did not go past the breathing or the rope. It meant going deeper to get shallow. It meant the squeeze. If you have never been through a real squeeze, I need you to feel this with me for a second, because it matters for what happens. The birth canal is a flat bedding plane maybe 9 inches high at its tightest. You go through it on one cheek, head turned sideways, one arm forward and one arm back, exhaling to make your chest smaller, pushing with your toes an inch at a time. There is rock on your spine and rock on your sternum. You cannot lift your head, you cannot bring your arms together. If you panic in there, your chest swells, and you wedge, and you stay, and they find you in the spring. I have done it 40 times. I went in calm. I went in because every other door was guarded. Halfway through, with my cheek in the mud, and my light 6 inches from the rock in front of my face, I heard it ahead of me again. The wet breathing, in the birth canal, coming from the far end, the end I was crawling toward, the dig end, the way out, it had gotten there first. You cannot back up fast in a squeeze. You cannot back up much at all. I pushed myself in reverse with my fingertips, an inch, another inch, and behind me, from the end I had come in from, I heard the mud move, a soft, heavy, wet shift of weight settling into the entrance of the squeeze behind me, closing it. Maybe it was the cave settling behind me. Maybe rock just shifts, the way rock does. I have told myself that 100 times since, but I know what I heard, and what I heard was weight, wet, deliberate weight, easing down into the mouth of the squeeze behind me, the way a thing lies down when it is in no hurry at all, and ahead of me, the breathing, the same breathing, closer now, 1 inch at a time, moving toward me the exact same way I moved through tight rock, like it had been watching how I do it and had learned. One presence, in front of me and behind me at once, in a slot of stone 9 inches high, where there is not room for one body, let alone the space between two. I did the only thing left. I turned my light off myself. I gave up the last of my sight on purpose, because I could not bear to watch it arrive. And I lay there in the total dark, wedged between two breathings, and I waited, because there was nothing else in the world to do. The breathing from the dig end stopped, very close to my face. Close enough that I felt the warm wet of an exhale move the air against my mouth. And then, in the dark, in my own voice, my exact voice, the voice I am talking to you with right now, it said the only words I had spoken out loud all night. It said off rope. It's been close to an hour since then. I know because my watch still glows, and I have been lying here in the black, not moving, barely breathing, telling this into the dark so that it exists somewhere. It is 6 o'clock now, call out. Up on the surface, at the kitchen table, Dana is reading my trip plan and picking up the phone, and somewhere a county dispatcher is being told to send cave rescue down the Sennett system after a solo caver who didn't come out. I should be relieved, but I can't stop thinking about the thing that's lying in the dark beside me now, breathing slow, having learned my voice, having learned exactly how I move through tight places 1 inch at a time, and how, in a few hours, it's going to hear people coming down the rope, and how it's going to know, in my own voice, exactly what to call up to them.